Some voters are still at the polls tonight, the after-work crowd, but we are expecting overall a low turnout.
So joining us to talk a little bit more about that is KCRA3 political analyst Steve Swat. You know, voting has really become something pretty easy. A lot of people you see voting by mail, or they, as we just saw, brought those ballots in today. So what do you think is behind this low voter turnout?
Well, first of all, we set a record low for a primary at in the mid-20s in June. It looks like we're going to set another record, you know, in November. The reason is several. I mean, we have several reasons. One is that we don't have a president on the top of the ticket to draw voters to the polls. We don't have a competitive race for governor, probably the least competitive since 1946. We don't have a U.S. Senate race either, and we also don't have any blockbuster measures on the state ballot, you know, propositions to draw voters in. The old record or the current record is 50.6%, which was back in 2002, which was an indication that voters did not like their choices back then. We probably will end up below that. And what happens is that it affects various races, because Republicans are much more reliable voters. And when you have a low voter turnout, you get an electorate that is older, that is whiter, that tends to be more conservative. And so Republicans make up 28% of the registered voters in California, but the expectation is that the actual electorate will be 34% Republican by the time all the voting's counted.
We're going to talk to our analysts about some specific races and the impact voter turnout could have on those in just a moment. But let's talk about what could be done to get more people to the polls. In our Secretary of State race, the two candidates have been talking a lot about what they might do as Secretary of State to encourage more people to just show up.
Well, there are plenty of things you can do. I mean, same-day voter registration and things like that help. But the other thing would be changing the tone of the campaigns, because, I mean, surveys indicate and studies indicate that when you have a much more positive campaign, that does help get voters to the polls, and when it's all negative, that suppresses the voter turnout, and that keeps people away. And California still does rely on television for its primary news and information for most voters. And the old saying that a definition of a campaign rally in California is 3 people sitting around a television set. And with this onslaught of negative campaigning, it feeds into cynicism and reinforces the idea that so many people already have that politicians and politics is a dirty business.
Will, and the feeling, I don't like any of them, so why bother?
That's right.
Yeah, all right, Steve, thank you.
Sure.
And with that, we know the campaigning is over. Voters have a little more than an hour now to cast their ballot. So we want to bring in some of our other political analysts to talk about it.
That's our Republican political analyst, Kevin Eckery, our Democratic political analyst, Robin Swanson. Thank you both for joining us. So,
evening, guys.
We have several races that could be decided here because of turnout. Let's start, though, with Secretary of State. And, Robin, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Well, I think that voter turnout is going to be critical, and we still have an hour to prove them wrong here in California. You know, field polls suggested that only 8.1 million people are going to vote. Races like Secretary of State, like Controller, are critically important to the state and will be decided by a very limited number of votes. You have to remember that the Controller's race was decided in the primary by less than 1,000 votes after several weeks. So your vote actually becomes even more important when there are fewer voters.
We should point out that in the Secretary of State's race in the primary, the person who came in third wasn't even running at that point. He was under indictment. So, yeah, definitely a sign people not necessarily paying close attention. Let's
look at the Secretary of Public Instruction and start with you, Kevin. When you kind of look at that race right now between Tom Turlington and Marshall Tuck, leading up to this, it was a virtual tie.
Well, I mean, it's an extremely close race. I mean, you've got, you know, 2 Democrats for a nonpartisan race, and that's one of the things people need to remember. Superintendent of Public Instruction is actually a nonpartisan race. And in this case, it's actually a race between the California Teachers Association and everybody else. But it's going to be very close. And I think one of the key things is we've got several races on the ballot right now where literally 1 and 2 votes could matter. And with an hour and a half left in the polls, I'm hoping that people will take advantage of it. And if you can tear yourselves away from KCRA for a few minutes, go out, vote, come on back.
Hey, going back to state schools, Chief Kevin, do you think that turnout would affect this race one way or another, given that they're both Democrats? I mean, this race itself is a battle within the Democratic Party.
Well, remember, I said that they're both Democrats, but it's still very much a nonpartisan race. And I think you've got a lot of Republican support going to Marshall Tuck. and something like 18% of his voter base right now is Republican or more. And I think that turnout is going to be, extremely important, because one of the things people need to realize is a third of California voted before today even started. And now we need to see who's going to come out and vote. And I'm telling you, there are like Robin was saying, things could be very tight in these races we're talking about today. So there's still a chance to go out there and you could be the deciding vote.
Robin, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry, jumping in there, but you have to remember that they're actually very different candidates. They are both Democrats. We happen to live in a state where it's a 2/3 majority of Democrats, so we have an embarrassment of riches here. But Tom Torlakson is supported by teachers, and that's a good thing. I like that Kevin likes to turn it into a bad thing, but teachers, the people that this position would be managing, like Tom Torlakson.
All right, we want to thank both Kevin and Robin. We'll be checking back with you all night for analysis as the results come in. Thanks to you both.